Hi, my name is Paul Secor, and I'm the Vice President for Philanthropy for the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. And today we're celebrating World Mental Health Day, so it's an exciting thing for us. And instead of just kind of doing the basics of putting up a graphic and some bullet points, we wanted to dive a little bit deeper and see how mental health is perceived and received in different communities, groups, and demographics. So with me today, I have Ramneek Kaur, who is with Gratis, who's a volunteer with Gratis, who's another nonprofit organization. So thank you, Ramneek, for joining me.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right. So I guess we're going to get into a very interesting topic, which is mental health and the Sikh community, specifically the Sikh religion. And I think it's going to be fascinating because there are so many different groups to learn about. And in Central Florida, this is definitely one of them. But before we dive into that topic, I know you're actually a professional in the mental health industry. So if you can tell me, how did you get involved in mental health and what inspired you to do so?
Oof. Um, I got involved in mental health a few years ago. I'd say like about 2017. Before that, I was your typical, not to be too stereotypical, but like your typical Indian girl who was going for med school. I was studying for my MCATs.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was instilled to kind of go do something, be impactful, go service community.
Yeah.
That was one of the ways that I was going for it. And at that time, I was also doing research and research with the correlation between trauma and cancer. That was one of my like what I was really into was cancer.
Okay.
Um, and when I proposed it to my professors at that time, they were like, "You don't have people experience. Like you have been with textbooks and microscopes and all of that. That's great. You got the science part, but like the people experience, you don't have that."
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
yeah, that really was an eye opener. Like, here I am saying I want to help people, but like, do I know what people want or need at this point? Did I really understand what it meant to help people?
You might have known the technical aspects, but not the personal aspects, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah. So I knew the technical, but the people part I was really lacking in. So I applied, got my master's. And I think what really changed it all was my internship. Like I started interning out of foster care. And I I loved it. I loved showing up with people. I loved it, and this is probably the bio student, I mean, but the complexity of it.
Hmm.
Like I think I grew up with this notion that psychology is a soft science. So there's not much like respect, I would say,
Yeah.
to it growing up. But I got in and it not only was it fascinating, but it was complex. It was hard. It was like, like this is people's lives. Um,
Yeah.
and thanks to my supervisor at that time, Maureen, she kind of poured into me. She made it feel like as if this is where I was meant to be.
Okay.
Like, you know, MCATs and all of that. Like, I did what I needed to do, but it was hard. I was like grasping and like trying so hard to just make it there. But
Yeah.
this, this flew for me. This was good for me. Like this felt good. This felt right with my soul. Um, so I ran with it. I it's weird, but like I dropped my dream of like or the dream that was imposed on me for of like 20 years and I just
Yes.
was like, okay, I think this is it. Let me give this a try. And didn't look back.
So, and we'll get into this, but it sounds like you might have um, gone against some cultural norms of what it might have been expected of you to do. Ending up in psychology was probably a little bit different. But
Yeah.
one thing I think is important is, all these videos are kind of about learning, and I think one of the things is a lot of our viewers out there might not really know the ins and outs and the details of the Sikh religion. I was surprised after I just did preliminary research on it that it was the fifth largest religion of the world. Obviously, a huge number of people practicing it here in Central Florida, and a lot of times misgot or confused, obviously, with Hinduism, confused with the Muslim faith, kind of its own whole faith. So if you can give us the elevator speech, the 1 minute pitch on what does the Sikh religion look like and what is it focused on?
Yeah, I will do my best. I probably will not do it justice. But Sikhi is a religion that there is one God. We are all humans, and we are here for each other. There are lessons to be learned while we are alive. And I think one of the biggest lessons that Sikhi really focuses on is seva, which is service. Like
Okay.
what can you do for a community? The temples that we have are open to any race, any religion of the world. So I think that's a really huge part of Sikhi, which is like servicing. And then the other part of it is being like fearless, showing up as Singhs and Kaur, which means like, warriors and lions and princesses, like people who will fight for their right kind of thing. And it goes back so far back to the roots of the religion. Um, and yeah, the values of it are so powerful, and I think they're so universal. It's just something that it's not trying to segregate out as much as it is to kind of bring people together.
And does karma factor in to the religion as well?
Um, there is this line where it talks about like when you in the Guru Granth Sahib where like when if you sin or if you do bad to others, you go through all the different phases, like all the different animals, and there's a lot of animals,
Yeah.
and like species of the universe to come back as a human form. So in a way, yes, but
Okay.
I don't want to say like it's specifically that it's geared towards karma, but it is talking about do well and come back, like,
Do the
do
right
well
thing.
and you'll do well. But if not, you'll be punished in some different form.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, doing good is what we're all about, right? Everyone should aspire to that.
Humanity.
So now, when you look at some of the unique stressors of those here in Central Florida, and I guess in different parts of the country that are experiencing stress that could potentially impact their mental wellness or mental health, I wanted to dive into that. I've read some studies, actually a 2019 study in California that did a study with 200 teenagers in the Sikh religion and found out that over 50% of them were being bullied in school and everything. And so I think that's just one facet. But can you expand upon that and let me know, what are some of the things you think are stressors that might impact negatively somebody's mental health or wellness if they're in the Sikh community?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up this aspect of bullying because I've seen it myself. My brothers are men with turbans, and I had this saying, it's weird, but like I'm privileged to be a woman here because like I didn't experience racism like they did. I
Yeah.
didn't hear the turban jokes or like the physical touching without permission from others like they have. And I think that really leads to this central idea of like identity crisis. Like, I'm here representing my culture, but it's so hard looking different. Wearing a turban that really does make you stand out, especially in a Western world here. Like it's heartbreaking even to see that. And then I think to add a layer to it, if one is to like defend themselves, I think it really comes off as if you're the bad child. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna get in trouble for, maybe you're lashing out, maybe you get into fights because of this, but no, people are so focused on that aspect of like, oh, you got into a fight. And, that can bring a lot of shame to people, like, especially in our community. Like, we want to stay, have this good name to ourselves. So when your child is fighting, people aren't going to see, oh, they fought because they were bullied or they were getting made fun of. They're going to see, oh, look, he's getting in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
and so
This
I
person's
think
always involved in the fight, so this person must be the common denominator.
exactly. Not saying that like this person is fighting to have an identity, is fighting to like maintain this, and especially at a younger age, it is something that like family will bring you into. So it's something you're just raised into. So like you're trying to protect this aspect of having the terp and having the bug or having that, and then you're getting made fun of. And then on top of that, not getting support. So
Yeah.
you're essentially left alone. You're left alone to kind of figure out how to navigate both worlds. How do you navigate the Western world and then the cultures that your family is bringing up for you?
So you're trying to blend into American society, but at the same time honor your family and their values and try to navigate that. That sounds like a bit of a challenge. And do you feel like a lot of um, the Sikh males are stereotyped as Muslim and associated with that? Obviously the Muslim faith is a huge faith too, and there's only a small fraction which are considered, radical Muslims, but
Yeah.
is that the stereotype that the Sikh community has to deal with sometimes?
Yeah, and I think after 9/11, that really became prominent. I think you would see it in gas stations, you would see it in, convenience stores. You would see that kind of hazing happen a lot after 9/11. I think people just kind of merged the two, which doesn't make it okay. Like it doesn't mean
Yeah,
that you can go ahead and haze a Muslim man. Because like this is a Sikh man, you can't haze them. That's not even, they're not Muslim, but like
yeah,
neither are okay. Like neither is okay, but to see like there was such a huge increase in that. And I think that really leads to like self-consciousness. Like you get so self-conscious of yourself and like that faith starts to kind of, I don't want to say dwindle, but like it really gets tested.
yeah. So it seems like there's a lot to deal with there. You have the discrimination factor, you have the pressure to do a blended culture. You mentioned earlier kind of expectations of success and being a good student and having a good career and achieving in a certain path. That seems like a lot of stressors to deal with. How is mental health received in the Sikh community? Is it something that's embraced? Is it shunned? What's kind of the take on it?
To be honest, it would be shunned if it was spoken about. I don't think it's a topic of discussion for it to be taboo.
Okay.
So like for instance, like I am a therapist, and my father, he immigrated here and he has no idea what that means. He's like, so what does that mean? Like my family, like the
Wow.
elder generation, they're not aware that like talk therapy is a thing and that there is healing that happens through this. It's not just someone coming in and venting. So like it's just not even knowledge, I guess. So
Yeah.
like yeah, so as far as mental health, I think it's not knowledgeable about what it is, but like emotional health, I think that's also very stagnated within the communities. And I think that really does have to do with um, generational trauma and what they carried with them when they moved in. And I don't mean just like the partition and, the genocides that have happened, the genocide that's happened, but like even way before that. I think feeling would have meant that they would have to see and recognize what's happening. And I don't think they have had the privilege to feel. Because if they did, it would be so hard to move on. They would get stuck.
That's really interesting. I've heard that in other conversations in other cultures that, hey, especially with the immigrant community, you're focused on getting established, getting everything set, finding a career, finding work, supporting your family. Evaluating your own mental health is at the bottom of the priority list, unfortunately, for some people, it seems like.
Yeah, there's no self-actualization that actually happens. Like if you've seen like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah,
so at the bottom where your food and survival is that like, and then the hope is that as generations progress, like those things become kind of taken care of so they can show up and be there. But I would say a lot of the immigrated parents and families, they didn't get that privilege.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. So I guess the big question is, what do we do So, like at the Mental Health Association of Central Florida, all of our services are free. We offer free therapy to the uninsured. We have free support groups. We have a free mental health referral phone line. And so all these things that people can access. But how do we get it in front of people like in the Sikh community if the thing is like, not even an awareness of it? What's
Yeah.
the first step to breaking through to that? And what are some techniques that we can use and everybody can pitch in on to make this available and utilized?
Yeah. That's a loaded question. That's a big one. But a
Yeah.
very important one too. Um, I would say like one, collaboration is such a big thing. I think getting like-minded leaders together, who might have their own communities or have that notion of wanting to speak up and wanting to connect and enrolling people in these possibilities. Like what possibilities are open for people if they did, started dealing with their mental health? What's possible for them? At least allowing that to become conversation or
Mm.
allowing people to imagine that. I think that's so big to see like what's the point? Like, what's the point? I'll feel good. Okay, yeah, like, well, so does,
Ah,
drinking wine at night makes me feel good too.
that's
Like,
true. So do you feel like it has to be almost propositioned like since the culture has such a high focus on success and achieving that this would be packaged in with that just like you need to maintain your physical health so you can be a top performer and achiever, you also need to maintain your mental health. Is that an angle in, do you think?
I like the way you're thinking. Yes, I
Okay.
think it would be a great way to kind of, in a way, market it in.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be great for like high schoolers, college, especially college students, who are so focused on creating a career, that they might put this in the back burner, but bringing it up like one, like colleges are going to be looking for someone who can handle their stress. Because like, why would they give you a
Yeah.
seat if you can't handle the stress? You're taking that away from someone who would be able to handle the stress. That's like one way, a tactic to kind of get them through the door. Another one, this is something that kind of came to me within like the last year, and I ran with it, which is breath work.
Okay.
Reset breath work is um, this, I, speechless. It's this modality where you get to be like an active participant in your meditation.
Yes.
And and meditation is so big also within our community. So that might be something that could be utilized. I think it really helps connect one to their body. And it's like a 30-minute journey, and some might say it's like 10 years of therapy within like this 1 hour kind of thing because it breaks down so much for you. And like creating events, like people love fun things, like having an event and letting this be like a small like part of a bigger event, not letting this be the whole event, but like a place where people might, do art, they might see arts and craft, they might get food, different like food, and then having like classes going out through the day so they get to join and like, what is this? And like try it out and
Yeah.
see what comes
I,
up for them.
I do like that idea because I have our CEO makes presentations in the community and our other staff members do it too. And one of the things they do is they go through this whole big presentation, 45 minutes, all these different tips and, techniques that you can use for your mental health, warning signs, et cetera. And then at the end of it, we do a breathing exercise that takes about 2 minutes. And it's so funny because everybody looks like you just, I don't know, like put $100 bill down on their desk or something because they're like, oh, after it's done, you can tell they feel totally different. And, we talked to them for 49 minutes. And then that 50th minute that we do a breathing exercise is you can see the light bulb kind of go on. So yeah, I can see that might be a powerful technique.
And I do want to say the technique it's like it really, I think it's great for the generational traumas because things don't get spoken about, but like we have to remember like the body keeps score. The body knows what you've been through, and like even if you don't want to talk about it, doesn't mean that your body didn't experience it and it isn't able.
Yeah.
So like I think people will be so shocked and amazed at the same time, to see that bodily reaction. Like you might not be thinking about it, but your body sure hasn't forgotten. So like that could be such like a whoa, did not see that coming.
I like it. We need to collaborate on a session for this, you know?
You got it.
But one of the things, I've heard over and over again, doing these videos is that when, someone is reaching out for help, it's really important for them to have somebody that looks like them, that they can identify with, that has a shared experience that they have. Because in a lot of these cases, if you're getting therapy, you're expressing your innermost thoughts, you're very vulnerable, you might be embarrassed, you might be fearful, and all these things. And so if you're doing it to somebody outside of your shared interest, it's much harder. So with that, it seems like it would be more powerful if we could have more people in the Sikh community serving as mental health professionals. But I know it's a big challenge. So in your mind, what can we do to get more individuals from the Sikh community involved in mental health professionally?
Professionally, I would honestly target, and this is maybe from my own experience, target a lot of like the science and science field.
Okay.
And the reason why I say this is it's because a lot of people go into science and like they have these goals, but maybe they're not fully aware in
Yeah.
what they want to do. So knowing that there is another avenue where they like this is gonna sound weird, but like I do get to save lives. Like as a
True.
therapist, like maybe I'm not the doctor, but like I save lives on a weekly basis where people might be going through severe crisis and like talking them off that ledge or like bringing them tools that would allow them to thrive and like have a life that's worth living. Like that is so powerful on its own and like there is a science to it. It's not just like ooh, let's just talk. Like it's a science and it's an art and like I think bringing it into that arena and especially with like what I had mentioned earlier, like what got me into this was cancer.
Yeah.
Like what really did get me into this was cancer. So like I wouldn't be surprised if, even if people use this as a stepping stone to get into med school. Like I think that would be make our healthcare system that much stronger. Having this experience of like what it's like to know what people need help with and what that experience like that life is like. So when they do become doctors, they're just not numbers and people. They're like lives that it's so much more richer, I would say.
That's a great point because really at the end of the day, it's all intertwined, right, with physical health and physical being and mental health. So that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I hadn't thought of that. There's so much in this world focusing and try to entice students and young people to get involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, that, if you could parlay psychology into there at the same time, there you might find people that, oh, I like you. Hey, I enjoyed this, but this is my calling. This is my passion over here.
Yeah, like creating research, like having um mentors and researchers who will also utilize all of these things. Like there is a neurobiology to it. And then allowing them to also practice with people and get out there into community as well, but while also stacking up not only their resume, but their knowledge. And
Yeah.
like, all that research can be so important. And I think it's such a driving factor in our community. Like I feel like I've said this throughout the whole thing is this notion of accomplishing something. Like school is such a big thing um, within Sikhi, but as like I would say in like the Indian community as well.
Yeah. Spills over to that. Well, we covered a lot as you mentioned. So is there anything that we missed or anything you wanted to get and say, I just made sure I got to make sure I talk about this? Anything else?
Uh, one last thing, I think something to remember is that like share. I think share what you're going through and all of that because you would be surprised by how many other people are also going through things. And I also think it allows us to be human and to connect and empathize. And it's such a good feeling. Like these are warm feeling. that chase that we have for happiness or peace or joy, it really does come when we like one connect with ourselves and strengthen our relationships with ourselves, which leads to, maybe allowing us to connect with others better, which leads to connecting with community better. And then once that happens, what's the impact that can happen? Like that feeling that we're all chasing, it's there, but like it starts with us. So start connecting with yourself, start seeing who you are. I think that's such a great way of loving yourself, is seeing yourself.
Yeah, if you don't start there, you can't really build, right? Like that's a foundation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Monique, this has been great. Really appreciate all your time with this, and appreciate you taking time to celebrate World Mental Health Day with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you bet. So everyone else, you can get more of these videos by going to our website, mhacf.org, and we also have information about our free resources there. So again, happy World Mental Health Day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.